I thought it was only one. I just waiting for somebody to talk to me.
Hockey boy, you like that?
It's not. It's all right. I just.
So
That's
the
funny.
NHL has started, Ron, and it's going to be interesting to kind of get used to this new format that Gary Bettman has. What's your take on the hockey season?
What's wrong with the Metropolitan Division?
What the hell's a Metropolitan Division? What crap is that?
It's the old. It's the old Atlantic Division.
First of all, if nobody knows, this is Ron Gallo, Sports World Radio's hockey guru, and since hockey is back on, kids, Ron's back on too.
Hey, I didn't hear yesterday before the start of the season. Yesterday was the first day of the firing the real bullets, as they say. Montreal Canadiens, they went down in a ball of flames, unfortunately, to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Don't feel bad. I wasn't here yesterday either. I overslept and didn't wake up until after 4 in the afternoon.
Well, you bill this as the fastest hour in sports. I've been trying to get Skype to update for the last 38 minutes, and that's why I'm late.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. Anyways, what do you guys want to talk about? Do you guys want to talk about George Peros getting involved in a fight and then ending up knocking himself out cold when he hit the ice?
I want to start off with the Metropolitan Division.
This whole hockey format's just a joke. They should have put it back the way it was.
Can we get your idea around this whole thing so maybe you can soothe my brain because I don't like it.
Gary Bettman should be in here.
Okay. The reason why I don't like it is because you look in the Western Conference. They have the Pacific Division. Not bad. I mean, out of all of the teams, you've got 3 of them, maybe 4 of them that play on the West Coast that have the Pacific Ocean washing up close to their arena. Edmonton, Phoenix, definitely nowhere near. Okay. Central Division makes sense because a lot of these teams play in the Central Time Zone. You have the Atlantic Division. Okay, I can get that again because you had the West Coast with the Pacific. You have the East Coast with the Atlantic. And then just this random division name, the Metropolitan Division. Washington, Carolina, Columbus, New Jersey, New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Where's Boston?
They're a little bit closer to the Atlantic Ocean than some of these other teams.
He screwed that whole thing up. Plus, he put Detroit in the wrong spot too, didn't he?
He did. You look at Detroit, and Detroit shows up in the Eastern Conference with Atlantic Division teams. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings are playing. Their closest opponent is going to be Buffalo, Toronto. Then you start really pulling away. Has to play games against Florida and Tampa Bay in their own division.
That's ridiculous.
It is. When you look at some of the alignment, my bigger concern is how do you end up with 14 teams in the Western Conference and 16 teams in the Eastern Conference?
Exactly.
Why is it not 15 and 15?
Exactly.
8 in one division, 7 in the division, and then in the other conference you have 8 and 7. But no, we have 7 and 7 in the West, 8 and 8 in the East. What that is, the Western Division, which has been known to be a bit of a stronger division here over the last few years, it's going to be easier for teams to make it into the postseason in the West than it is in the East.
Do the players have anything to do with this? Can they stop this at all, or is this just the owners, or is this just Gary Bettman?
Well, Jeff, first of all, we don't want the getting involved with this. We've already had a work stoppage last year that cost us half the season. We definitely don't want anything coming of this. This alignment comes from the National Hockey League. What that means is it comes from Gary Bettman and the team governors.
It doesn't come from the owners.
Owners, governors, same difference. Sorry.
Who can anybody stop this?
No, this is set.
Bullshit.
It'll be like at least a year, and then there might be enough, people commenting that there might be a forced realignment. And what I see is something like Detroit. I mean, you can do this with one team. Move Detroit in the Central Division, you're done.
Correct.
And so what that'll do is it'll leave 7 teams in the Atlantic Division, 8 teams in the Metropolitan Division. Detroit will move into the Western Conference. They'll play against Chicago, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Nashville, and St. Louis. I'm no geography specialist, but those seem to be a lot closer teams than where they are currently playing. That'll put 8 teams in the Central Division and leave 7 in the Pacific. Guess what? You have 15 teams in the West, 15 teams in the East. Sounds even to me.
Obviously, Gary Bettman's not a geography major.
He didn't major in geography, did he?
I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. I mean,
This is
even
the most format ever. I'm sorry.
even somebody as dumb as Sean can see that. You see what I'm saying? Come on.
Wow. Anybody who's dumb as Sean can see that.
You gotta tell me that Gary Bettman's secretary didn't even see that? Come on.
She's only hired for looks.
That's terrible.
Well, Jeff, what would you do if you were commissioner of hockey?
I'd move Detroit where it's supposed to be. And secondly, the Metropolitan Division, to me, should be Boston, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, okay, and Washington. That's 7 teams. Hello?
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, the easiest solution to the problem, though, is just one team. Just one team needs to move from their current division and move into a division in the other conference. I mean, how difficult was that? That's like a typo. Like you said, didn't the secretary see this? This, to me, is a typo.
It's ridiculous. I don't know how they let. I don't know how the players let Gary Bettman and others get away with this.
Players, fans, media, everybody in the Detroit area should be, kind of up in arms about this because they have to play the same amount of games against the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning as anybody else in that Atlantic division. But I mean, look at Toronto.
Hey, what division are the St. Louis Blues in?
Pardon me?
What division are the St. Louis Blues in?
They're over in the West. St. Louis Blues are in the Central Division.
In the Central Division.
Full hockey format.
In the Central Division. Where's the Minnesota team?
One guess.
Where?
Central Division.
Thank you.
In the Western Conference.
Now, isn't Detroit close to Minnesota and St. Louis?
Absolutely. And
what
Winnipeg's not that far away.
Problem? I don't get it.
Gary Bettman, I don't know what he's been smoking the last ever since he's been commissioner, but this whole thing is all screwed up.
Is he retiring too? I mean,
he wants to go out. You see this every once in a while where somebody that's large and in charge or maybe suffering from small man syndrome wants to be large and in charge, wants to leave a legacy. And unfortunately for Gary Bettman, his legacy is going to be the Metropolitan Division.
And for me, it's going to be the lockouts.
Well, I mean, how many have there been?
Bud Selig's legacy is going to be steroids.
That's true. And, I mean, you look at some of the others. Major League Baseball hasn't had a stoppage in how long?
All right. Well, yeah, you got to go with that. So Bud Selig, but he's still going to be stuck with known as the commissioner in the steroid era.
Well, and it's all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hockey has had a total of what? I think it's been like 3-4 lock. 94 and 95. You got to remember they went to 48 games. And 04-05 was dark time in hockey because they canceled the whole hockey season. And then last year season was half gone too, and then they had to do 48 games starting in January of this year.
That came down to the hour. They just about lost the second season.
Unbelievable.
I remember that too, and I thought, oh my gosh, I said, we're actually going to have hockey. What a miracle.
Hockey season is here, and you got NBA coming at the bottom of the month. Ooh, and we got football season going, Major League playoffs is happening. We got a lot of crap going on in the sports world now, don't we?
No, absolutely.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How are the Spruce Kings doing?
I'd love to tell you how the Spruce Kings are doing. They went down on a road trip, and they came back in top spot in the division, and they are 1 point out of top spot in the league.
That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, one of our defensemen, an unsung hero, probably one of the most consistent defensemen in the BC Hockey League for a season and a bit, ends up getting the Player of the Week nod. Only one player gets that recognition, and he was the player that got it. And we couldn't be happier for him because he deserves so much. He's a team first player, but he stepped up, was a difference maker all weekend long.
How do they look?
actually, believe it or not, and you know this about me, Jeff. I mean, I'm the biggest fans. They are surprising me this year.
Really?
I did not peg them to be a performing team. I figured that they were going to be a little weak up front. I figured that they were going to have a good blue line, but I was worried about the players between the net because we're losing two veterans. And they've come back, and they're finding a way to win. They're winning by 1 goal, but you know what? They're finding a way to win, and that's all you can ask of these guys.
Nice.
Here's a different question besides hockey. Jeff, I saw the topic yesterday. He knows about it. Your thoughts about the finals? They're going to go back to 1-1-1 format.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that the 2-3-2 format favors the team that is not supposed to be the favorite team, is not supposed to have home court advantage. I think that the team that gets the top spot and gets that favorable seed of getting the most games, the 4 games on home court, I think that in the old format of 2-3-2, it did not benefit that team. It benefited the team that came in second that wasn't supposed to have home court advantage.
Right.
It angered a lot of people when they went with this rule in 1985 when David Stern put that in there, when they went with 2-3-2. And Jeff, I know when you heard that and saw that in 85 and saw it on ESPN, you were like, man, you got to be kidding me. This isn't true. 2-3-2? What the heck is the matter with you, David Stern? Now all of a sudden they're going to go back to that regular format, which is just the perfect thing for them to do.
Again, when you tinker with something, I have no problem with it, but if you're going to tinker with it, let's think about it. Okay, here's where I'm getting at. Here's some of the changes that have come in the offseason for the NHL this year. The net itself is 8 inches shorter in the back end. What that means is that the actual net itself is narrow and there's more room to skate behind the net. So you have a lot more room to move as a forward that's got speed or a defenseman that needs to move the puck quickly.
They made the net smaller?
I like this.
They made the net smaller?
The net is, if you're looking at it as a 3-dimensional item, which it is, you've got the goalposts and you've got the crossbar and you have the part that goes out the back end, right?
Right.
Well, the back end is shorter by 8 inches.
So they brought it in towards the goalie by 8 inches.
Correct, from the backside.
Wow.
So what that's done is it's 8 more inches for the player behind the net to skate and maneuver around.
So they made the back end shorter, less curvier.
That's well, essentially they took out some of that curve, right?
Yeah. Eventually, that's exactly. They took 4 inches on each side out, or something like that.
8 inches, like if you think about it from the very middle of the net, that the back part of the net is 8 inches closer to the goal line.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so that was one big change. And one is the hybrid icing.
The width and the height is still the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No change in the fundamental dimensions of the goal itself.
Just the back end, which doesn't
Just
matter.
the back end is shorter.
Right, which doesn't really matter.
And hybrid icing has come in.
What the hell is that?
Hybrid icing uses an imaginary line for the officials. However, I think maybe even later this season, you're going to see that line become real. What it is if you could draw a line that is parallel to the goal line through the face-off dots, if there's an icing call, players will race for that puck. And if there's 2 players in pursuit of the puck, what's been happening in the past is lots of injuries because it had to be touch icing. So in other words, the player there, if it's the team that fired the puck, be having a face-off back in their end, if they could touch the puck, they'll negate that icing call and there's no stoppage in play.
Right.
If it's the other team, if they touch it first, the puck goes all the way back down, the face-off goes all the way back down the ice inside that zone, and furthermore, the team that iced the puck is not allowed to make changes. What they've done now is they've drawn an imaginary line that goes from each of the walls through the face-off dots, so you're allowed to race for the puck until you get to that imaginary line, and if the 2 players are still in close proximity, the referee just blows it dead so that there's no collision in the end boards, because that's where you were getting risks and shoulders and knees and ankle injuries because of the guys, sticking a stick out and tripping over a stick or tripping the player that they're racing against, and then you're crashing heavily